So you are the only one who's streaming then. Nobody else complained. So it should be up now. All right. Okay. Now remember events. Oops. Where is this? Let's go ahead and this dot handle click. Okay. Let's see if this works. So count is this. My count keeps going down. Okay. So what is this? We have another state component, the state variable. We call it counter. We are updating the state in our click functionality. So I have a button over here. I'm using the event on click, and you are calling a function that has to happen for this one. Okay. Now the only problem with this is when you call onClick function in this manner, you are able to pass one single argument, which is event, right? You guys remember from our jQuery and all that we can pass in this. If you want to call event.prevent default, you would do e.prevent default method, right? These are all the methods that are available on the event. Right? By default, it gives you one argument, which is called event. Okay. Now, if, for example, if I want to pass in more than one argument, what do I have to do? Can I still use the same function? I cannot. Why? Because onClick function is saying that the function that you're passing in over here can only take in one argument, which I'm going to pass in the event. Okay, you can call it E or event, it doesn't matter. So you cannot pass in more than one argument. So to solve that issue, what you usually will see is this syntax. You will see an arrow function. Okay. Does this make sense? What does this mean? The same function, right? It's an arrow function, but I'm passing an event. Okay. So it is going to call an anonymous function, and it's going to pass an event to it. What happens in this anonymous function body? I can call my function this dot handle click, pass in this argument. Okay. Now, can I pass in more than one argument over here? I can. Why? OnClick only requires a function that has one argument, which is we are already giving it, which is this anonymous function. Within the body of this function, I'm saying once you call this function, hey, go ahead and call this function again. So, for example, if I have to pass in a ID or something, we'll look at some examples where you will have to pass in more information to your handle click. You can pass this without breaking any other contract from it. So you can have this ID, for example, and then you should be able to pass it. But right now we don't have a variable ID, but you will see once we get to that point, once we do some activities, you will have to have something else being passed to your click functions. Okay. Let me go back here. Again, please, the only thing over here to understand is that on click, you are calling an anonymous function using the arrow syntax. Okay, the arrow function syntax. This is the function. Okay, within the function body, you are calling your handle click function that you have defined on the top. Okay, and the reason is because you can only pass in a single argument. This is not going to work if your handle click requires more than one argument. Right now it just requires one, so it's still fine, but you will see in the activities that we need to pass in more than one arguments. Okay, so the better way is I'm going to stick to this syntax every time, even if I need an argument, if I don't need an argument, because once I need it, I don't have to change anything. So I'm kind of going to start using this syntax again so that everybody gets used to it, make sure everybody understands what is going on. Okay, again, anonymous function, within the body you're calling this function that is on the top. Right now still nothing changes. If you click, still works, everything is good. Okay, all right, questions? Confused which part? The click one? It's the same E. So what is this equivalent to? If I had to write in my older function without the arrow function, So it looks like function, right? You're passing in E, okay? And then within this, you are saying, call this function this dot handle click, passing this E. This thing is equivalent of what is that over here? Okay, this is equivalent of if you are doing this thing. You're saying function, anonymous function, no name. You're passing an argument E, and within this body, you are saying call my function handle click, passing this argument. Okay, the reason why you are doing this is because this anonymous function can only take a single argument. For example, if you had a variable let id is equal to 1 and you had to pass this id to your handle click function, you should be able to pass it like this. Okay, so this arrow function expands to this thing. So function e, this is this part. Okay, this is the body, which is this part over here. Within the function body, you're calling this function. So we did this in just single line. Still not? Which one? Yeah. No change over here. Same E? This thing? Yeah. So this E is this one. You can call this whatever you want. You can call it event. Or that's different. That's just an argument name. Parameter name. Yeah, you can call it anything you want. But when you're calling this function, this and this has to be the same. So you can, if you change this to EVT, then this has to be EVT. Those are just the variable names. The only thing important is it needs to have one parameter. Okay. If this is confusing for now you can stick to the syntax without the arrow function. It will work, but eventually we will have to come to this. For now you can do handle click and this will still work. Okay, eventually we will come to that syntax because you will see we have to pass in multiple arguments and this is not going to work. Why? Because your onClick function requires a function that only has one argument. It works over here, it's not going to work if you need more than one parameters. Yes. Exactly. That's all I'm doing. Yes. It's kind of a hacky way to get to pass in more arguments. Exactly. Yeah, it's just a hacky way to pass in more than one argument. You're just wrapping this up into a function. Yeah. Again, for now, this is going to work. Later on, it's not going to work because we need to pass in more than one. So we'll have to create that wrapper. All right. Even before this, any questions about state? No questions? You guys understood state so fast? It took me a while to understand state. I have to keep going through the documentation, keep writing code. Or is it just like you don't know what to ask? Okay. So let's do this. Let's look at activity number 27. Okay, so 27, you have to forget about the clock and everything. 27 is similar to the counter one. The only difference is my counter goes up, your counter has to go down. Okay, that's exercise number 27. Okay, I'm going to keep this up over here. So what you will have to do is most probably you'll have to work with the handle click event, counter, and these two. You probably don't even need the will unmount because you're not doing anything. Just use the component did mount and then update the. Actually, you don't even need the component update because your state is updating on a click event most probably. So all you have to do is click event, set the state, but in my case, the counter is going up. In your case, the counter is going to go down. So this means your initial value, instead of being 0, is going to be some other value. And then when you click the button, it's going to keep going down. Okay. Again, take a look at 27. See if you can complete this on your own. Let's see, what are the instructions? Okay, so they require a bootstrap. Let's see. 27. Counter. Okay. So take the source folder, copy it over to your next app. So I'm going to delete this. Okay. Paste it over here. Okay. Let's go ahead and run this to make sure this is working. Okay, so this is, oh, it says increment. Oh, you have to add. Okay, so this is working for you. Okay, so one of the states looks like is already solved. So add a new state and a button. So let's go back to the code over here. What was the weaknesses? So we did this. Be sure to add bootstrap. That's why it doesn't show up nicely. So let's go ahead and add this bootstrap to our index.html. Public folder, index.html. Let's add it. Okay. Let's go back and see. Oh, looks much nicer now. Alright, so I have completed this. Add the code to the counter component to add a decrement button which decreases the value. Okay, similar to that, you are going to add a new button to your counter. Okay, make sure first you kind of review it. The first thing, lines 4 to 6, you will see a little bit different. Remember, we used the constructor. Okay, in this case, they are not using the constructor and they're using the state without the this keyword. Okay, again, this is another way to write it, but what I would suggest is pick one coding practice and stick to it. If you want to do it this way, then make sure you do it this way, that you don't have a constructor. This is not going to work if you have a constructor. Okay, so if you do the constructor part, then you'll have to change this a bit, and you will have to say, let's say constructor. What was it? We need to pass in props. Okay, and then if you're using constructor, you need to call the super props. Okay, and then this state has to go inside your constructor like this, and you will say this dot state. Okay, and there shouldn't be any more changes. So if you go back over here, let's make sure it still works. Okay, again, which one is better? The previous one has, if you look at it, it has less amount of code. You just need, instead of all this, you are doing what was it, state is equal to count dot zero. Okay. Oops. But if you are using this syntax, I want you guys to do a little bit of research and kind of find out why this is working and why do you not need the constructor. Okay. Yes, yes. So it's not destructuring, but you're on the right path. Yeah, it's part of ES6. They have a new feature. That's why this works. It's called what? No, not the static class. Yeah. So if you're using this syntax, please, this is your homework. Make sure kind of read a little bit into the documentation. It's all there. Even just the React documentation, if you look into the events state, they have mentioned why and how the syntax works. Okay, it's a new feature in ES6, which they have included. So since I already modified this, I'm going to kind of stick to this one. Okay, but if you look at this, they have their count. All right, if you want to add a new decrement counter, you can add a new state variable, and then go ahead and work with that. So the first thing you can do is add a new button. So click count. So you can add a new button here. Okay, call it decrement. Is that the right word? Add some space between it. What's the easiest way to add space? I don't want to modify the CSS. What's the easiest way to add a space? Huh? Yeah. What was it? Ampersand? NBSP. Thank you. Oh. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Thank you. I don't want to modify any CSS or anything. You can do this even without adding this. So instead of this, what you're trying to do is you're trying to reduce this count. Quick way would be to create a handle decrement function, and this time just reduce the same count. So for example, if you say handle decrement okay, in this case we are updating the state. All right, set state requires an object. Okay, an object with the state we are trying to change, the same one, but this time we are saying state.count should go by 1. Okay, and then on my second function I can just call this this dot decrement. So this should work. Let's try. So increase. Oh, it works. 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 13. Okay. Down. Oh, okay, cool. So if you do not want to add a new variable, this would be a quick and easy way to do it. Use the same state variable, but you'll have to have more than one functions. And Increment gets called on the first one. The decrement gets called on the second one. All right, any questions on this? We have two more topics. One is the arrays one, the looking through, and the forms. So I'm going to skip the forms for today. I don't think I have enough time. I won't be able to give proper time to forms, so we'll continue forms on the next class, but that's okay. We'll be able to cover that. The last thing that I want to cover is our list one. That's kind of a little bit more simpler. Doesn't have anything to do with state and all. It's just the loop that I want to talk about before we move on to our next example. Okay, before I do that, any questions on this one? Again, there is no escape from state or props. Okay, remember, this is still basic React. Right? React does not work if you don't understand how props work, how state work. You will not be able to program anything in React. Okay, so we'll be using state and props a lot. Even state is used a lot more because you see the functionality, the dynamic part of the React comes from this state. As soon as the state updates, you see the page is not reloading itself. It's only this single component that gets updated. This is where the state comes in. Okay, it almost looks like it's an instantaneous update, but eventually what is happening is your browser is sending a request, it comes back and it updates everything. It's going through the whole process, but you will see it does not reload the whole page, it's only updating the single component. And this is only possible if you are using state. Okay. The last one is our map function. Okay, remember we used map function. These are ES6 one. This is JavaScript, but we can use this in React as well. Why do we use in React? So that if there is a collection that we are trying to show on our page, for example, remember the friends one, the SpongeBob activity. Remember you guys were saying, oh, there's like too many, you have to keep doing it without the loop. That is what this is going to resolve. Okay, I'm not going to solve that activity. I'll solve a different one, and then you guys will go ahead and update the friend one so that kind of looks nicer without looping through so much. Okay, let me open this new one that I have. Which one did I list? Let's do this one. All right, so let's go back here, make sure this is running. Notes. This demo npm start. Okay, we'll create a function component. So you guys can go ahead and start making a function component, and we're going to call it list. Okay, so I'm going to create a components, call it list. And create list.js and okay. Still keeping up with the standards that I'm following. So we have these three files. We'll create our component. So import React from React. Okay. Let's import our CSS. Import /CSS css, and then create our component, call it list function component. So I'm adding this here. And then this thing, export default list. Okay, let's pass in props as well. Since this is a function component, we'll keep doing this even if we don't use it. This is valid only in our class component, so it doesn't work in our function component. Here it is. Just make sure this is working. This is list component. Okay. All right. Looks good. No issues. Let's go back to our app and update our app.js. I don't need this. Let's keep our div and then call our component. Oh, I'm gonna try something. If you use WebStorm from JetBrains, if you put in a component that exists and you haven't imported, it automatically imports for you. So I'm gonna try. Visual Studio doesn't have that feature, so list from slash component slash list slash. Okay. Let's go back here. This is working. This is this component. So this is all good. Okay. So let's start with some basic array that they have over here in the example. We'll kind of follow the same one. This one over here. So let's suppose I have a const numbers array. Okay, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. You want to loop through it, and we want to show them in an li, like a list. Okay. The simplest case would be you can do numbers.map numbers.map function. Okay. What does map do? Map takes in a callback function with 3 parameters. The second two are optional. If you don't remember, please go back and look at the lecture. The first one is actually the element of the array that is parsing, and that's the only one that we are going to use. Okay, so we'll just use the first one. We'll call it number, and then body. We'll just do it in a single line, so we don't need this thing. Okay, I want to add a li component over here, so we'll say li show them in a list. Okay, and then show the number. And this is going to return a new map array, so we'll say list items. Okay, remember map returns you a new array, but the same number of elements in the new array, but it has been modified. What is it being modified? It is adding a HTML element li to it. That's what map does. Okay, remember for each does not return anything, so you can't really use for each over here. Okay, if you want to show this, you can show this over here. Call this items. Okay. And here's my list picture. Simple list. We have an array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are mapping. What are we doing? We are taking each element of this array and putting it inside an array. Simple HTML. Okay, and this list items. The new array now has 5 elements, and elements are defined like this. They have li number, so li1, li2, li3, li4. Okay, this is how the map works. Okay, the thing, let's see, if you go back to your inspect over here, this is important. So if you open up your inspect, if you were following, you will see this error. Okay, this error is coming from React. What is it saying? It's saying each child in a list should have a unique key prop. Okay, this is all mentioned in this documentation over here, list and keys. You can read it, but I'll give you a quick summary. When you are using map in your React app, React is saying that there should be a key defined in your array as well. There should be some kind of a key that it can identify. And if you don't have a key, this is the error that you're going to get. It's not going to stop your execution, but in your inspection, this is the error that will always keep coming up. Okay, now how do we solve this? A simple way to solve this is add a key attribute to this one. Now, what is a key? A key is something that is going to be unique. In our case, we'll keep it simple. In our case, all our numbers are unique, so we'll say, oh, each one of this is a key, which is unique, so we'll just say my key is number dot to string, convert this into a string, and this is my key. Okay, let's see how this is. Let me format this so that you guys can see this better. Number, my li tag. Let's do this. Let's see if we can wrap this up in a, maybe this is, put this in a new line. Okay, what did I miss? Okay, so same li. The only thing that I added is this attribute over here. Okay, again, why is this required? If you look at the error, when you're using a map function with React, React is saying that your list should have some unique identifier as well. Okay, and you have to pass that unique identifier as an attribute called key. In our case, it's just number, so we are saying the key is this, and this is what is going to show up on the screen. So now if you go back to your app over here, you will see there's no errors, and your console kind of goes away. Okay, now again, the only thing to remember over here is when you are using the map function in React, make sure there is a key. Okay, now this was a little bit more easier example. Let's say I am passing some array in my list. Okay, let me go back over here, and let's say I have, and this is going to help you complete the friend activity because you're getting an array from our app components. I'm going to kind of do something similar. So let's suppose I have a array of superheroes. Okay. This is going to be an object, so we'll add 3 objects here. Okay, we'll put an ID. Okay, we'll give this an ID of 1, and we will put some other attributes here. Okay, so your friends one also has kind of something similar. So we will have this data here as well. We'll change the ID, we'll change names, put in different age, add third one. Okay, so this is an array of superheroes. Okay, just like your friends one, right? So we can pass this as property. So I'm going to pass this over here. I'm going to call it super heroes, and I'm going to pass this array. Okay, so my component should be receiving an array called superheroes. So if I go back over here, just do inspect, go into the component, make sure this property is getting passed. Where is it? Components, list, and I'm getting props.superheroes, and this is the array that is coming to my list component. Okay, so let's go back over here. We'll keep this, we don't need this anymore. But right now I'm getting my props, so it's going to be something like props.superheroes, right? So what I want to do is, now I want to loop through my superheroes array and then kind of show them in a list. So I can do the same thing that I did over here in my code within this render function that returns. So what I have to do is I have to do props.superheroes, right? And then the map function, and that should be it. Okay, now within the map function, same thing, callback function with one argument. So I'm going to create a callback function, right? Single argument, so this would be 0, and we're going to get the rest of the stuff over here. Okay, similar to this one, we'll create a ally component. Okay, let's do this so that you guys can see it better. Okay, within my ally, the first thing I need is key. So I'm going to say key is equal to, and this time my key is in my ID. So I'm going to say hero.id. That is going to be the key. And within this, now I can display whatever I want. So let's suppose I want to display the name. So we say name, access the property, hero.name, which is over here. And that is going to list all the names of, we're just coming back over here. So we'll come back over here, console list item, that's fine. It shows up in the center, so I can go back and remove this class. Okay. You want to access more things. Let's suppose age. You can just put a comma here and then say age. This is going to be hero.age, and this shows up over here. Okay. So in this case, what did we do? The same function, the map function, but this time we are passing these as property, and that's what's happening in your friend function, friend app also. You're passing in those data. So how do you do it? Same thing. Within these curly braces, you can write in JavaScript. We are saying props.superheroes. This is the name of my array that is being passed as a property. Map through it using the single argument callback function. This is going to have each object of hero, and the hero object has ID, name, age. When you're looping through in React, remember you need to pass in a key, and that's where the keyword comes in. Key attribute, and set it to something that is going to be unique. Right? In our case, I am passing an ID, which I'm saying is going to be unique, so I pass in that key. Right? Again, if you skip this, remember you're going to get that console error, and we don't want that. So if you go back over here again, you're going to get this error, which is saying that you need to pass in a key. Okay? Fix, just in your element when you're looping through, put in a key over here. Okay? Again, if this looks difficult, please make sure you go back and look into the map method. We have already covered this in our ES6 class. The syntax is still the same. The only difference is I am adding a key over here. That's the only thing that is a requirement. Yes? Scroll up. Where is superheroes? Good question. Where is superheroes? You tell me. Huh? Where? No?
It's an attribute in the app. It's an attribute name.
It's part of the properties. Where is properties coming from? from the parent, which is coming from app.js, and you're passing it as an attribute over here. Okay? That's where super is coming from. Right? We haven't done forms, but no worries, we'll start forms on Tuesday. Again, this is still basic React. You have to understand state, you have to understand props. React is not going to work if you do not understand any of these things. Okay? Recommendation, please go back, review this, we covered until all these 8 things. Well, skip the 7, we'll cover 7 on Tuesday, but we have covered list and keys, handling events, state, props, all of this. Okay? The next time we're going to start with forms, then conditional rendering. Thursday and Saturday next week, if you see, we're going to start some more advanced React. Okay? But basic React is going to get completed on Tuesday. Again, read through it. Let me know if you have any questions. And Ethan is going to introduce the homework. And that will be all for today.
Suckers, thought you were done.
Hold on. Let me